Hello, and welcome to Blue Moon's demo of credit card payments. Credit card payments is an integrated credit card processing module for Dynamics GP that allows the user to process credit card payments from customers in cash receipts as well as sales transaction entry. We made the decision to work with Mercury because they are a payment processor. This means there are no gateways between the user's transactions and the payment processor and can generally have lower fees than those that include a gateway. Anyone processing credit card payments from their customers, either via Dynamics GP directly or through a website, should consider using credit card payments to automate this functionality. We are seamlessly integrated with Microsoft Dynamics GP. We also support a variety of transaction types, including pre-authorization, sales, adjustments, etc. Pre-authorization is a process where funds are reserved or held against a credit card balance until a transaction is finalized. A common example of this is when a customer places an order, yet the order needs to be fulfilled prior to shipment. The funds are reserved against the available balance of the credit card until the order is shipped, and then the sale is captured and the funds are withdrawn. Tokenization is a method of secure credit card storage where, once the credit card information is delivered to the payment processor, they send back a token to the requester that identifies the credit card for future transactions. Only the last 4 digits of the credit card are returned. So this provides a high security level for the user as no credit card information is stored within the financial systems of the user. Using tokenization on a website means that the transaction can be easily pre-authorized during transaction processing at the website and then captured within Dynamics GP once fulfillment has occurred. This is an inexpensive and secure way to provide credit card integration on your website. We also allow you to provide multiple credit cards per single sales document. That way, if you have a sale where a customer wants to use more than one credit card against that document, you're able to do so. We also provide full drill down capability when you're looking at your credit card transaction detail. This can be very helpful during the end of day balancing to see where your transactions are coming from. We also allow you to have user-initiated settlement within Dynamics GP, so you can drive when you're settling your end-of-day business versus having it driven by another authority. Let's take a look at the software. Let's open up Credit Card Payment Setup. Within the setup, you have the ability to make some decisions about how you would like to use the software. From here, you can set up things like your default card name. So if you only accept certain credit cards, or maybe one in particular as your default, you could set that up here. For any transactions that are declined for a variety of reasons, they will be moved from their batch that you were working with within Dynamics GP into a batch called Failed Transactions, or whatever you would like to call the batch. This batch will be able to be reviewed and also analyzed to see why the transactions were declined and what needs to happen in order to move them forward. We give you some options here, including being able to capture the pre-authorization on transfer to invoice. What that means is that when a sale is initially processed in the order side, it will be pre-authorized or reserved. At the time you transfer that order to invoice, you can have the system automatically capture or process a sale transaction for that individual invoice in order to finalize the credit card portion of the document. The auto pre-auth for remaining means that if the order was only partially transferred to an invoice and there's more remaining quantities that need to be fulfilled at a later date, you can also automatically pre-authorize that remaining amount and keep those funds reserved until the rest of the order is fulfilled. There's also other options that give you functionality, like allowing you to automatically capture or process as a sale anything that's left open when you go to post. You also can auto open our windows or open them through a control key. There's a section on the customer maintenance window for a credit card number. You can disable that or not disable it depending on your use of the Dynamics GP system. We will ignore that field, so we default it to being disabled. You can also use tolerances here in order to allow additional amounts to be captured as well as pre-authorized. This is often used when you have a sales order where you may have an additional amount like shipping, freight charges, or handling that might be added at a later time. You may pre-authorize the order at the time it comes in the door, but not know some of those charges at that time. By using the tolerances, you will give your system the ability to allow an authorization greater than the amount that's remaining, or also to capture a sale that may be more than the original authorization if you have these additional charges that may only be found at the time of fulfillment or invoice processing. Within our security button, you have the ability to take the Dynamics GP security and enhance that for use within credit card payments. For example, if you have a user that's allowed to pre-authorize an order but not process a sale, you can set up users to only have certain access within our credit card payment system, and only certain transaction processing would be allowed based on the setups here. Now we're going to process a transaction using cash receipts entry. So we'll go directly into cash receipts. This is the standard Dynamics GP transaction window for cash receipts. I'm going to enter in a batch with today's date. Enter in my customer and indicate that it's a credit card. And we'll see that the credit card payments window pops open. Now in this case, the American Science Museum has a default card that I have set up for them. You can do this for your customers, tracking as many different credit cards as you want, but if needed, track a default card for the customer or a default card at the individual address ID for that customer. As you can see here, all the different cards that they've used will be stored here, but you're not seeing anything except for the last 4 digits. That goes back to the tokenization that we were talking about, where the credit card information is not stored out in your Dynamics GP system. So to process this payment, I would just choose process. The system will go out and obtain either the approval or the decline and indicate that immediately. The transactions window will pop open here at the bottom and show you that this was the credit card used, the amount, and then the date. And then also the status, which would be a red X if it was failed, and also a checkbox if it was allowed. The status also has a drill down, so if it was declined or if it was unapproved for any reason, you could drill down here. Speaking to Mercury, they would be able to answer any questions that you might have. All of this information is shared with them, so they would have the details of the transaction. Then I would just follow my general rules for applying the amount and then save the transaction and go on to the next one. This credit card has been charged, so at this point I would go through and post my batch. This would then become part of my daily work that would be used to calculate my batch settlement at the end of the day. I'm going to process a second transaction here and intentionally show it failed so that you can see the difference of what happens when a transaction does not process. So I'm going to put in $100 and I'm going to process against that same credit card. Once I do that, it will come back and say that it's been declined, and what it'll do is move my transaction into the failed transaction batch ID that I've identified as my default. It also puts a red X next to my decline. And this transaction will not process, it will not post. It needs to be corrected or deleted in order for that to continue. Now on the sales order side, we'll go over to sales transaction entry. Credit card payments can be used regardless of whether you initiate your transactions as an order or an invoice. And you can choose to pre-authorize an invoice just like you're pre-authorizing an order, meaning the funds would be reserved prior to the sale being complete. So I'm going to enter in an order, And I'm going to put that into a batch. And then I'm going to enter an item on that order. And then I do have my credit card quick entry window down here at the bottom. And if I need to pre-authorize this order, which would be the standard process from an order perspective, I have not fulfilled this order yet or turned it into an invoice, but I want to reserve the funds right now to see whether the credit card is going to be accepted or not, I can choose pre-auth. And again, this will open up my credit card payment window, and it will default to my customer's credit card. However, this time they've asked that we use their Visa card instead of the MasterCard. So I'm going to choose the Visa card here. And then I'm going to process. The pre-authorization has been approved, and therefore I've got the green checkbox, and then I've also gotten my information down here on the credit card quick entry window. Now I'm going to transfer this order into an invoice, but before I do, I'm going to add a freight charge on here. And suddenly the customer needs to have this overnight, so the freight charge is going to be very high. So the freight charge is going to be $15. So when I choose that $15, I'm going to transfer, and I'm not doing anything else with my credit card, and I want to show you what's going to happen here. So you can see the order has transferred to an invoice, yet the batch is now the failed transaction batch. And this is because the amount that I wanted to authorize, the $25.04, exceeded my tolerance that I had set up in the system to allow us to go over the original pre-authorization. So the original pre-authorization was for $9, and then I also have the ability to only go 20% over that. So that was only another $2 or so, bringing the total to $10.78. The balance, based on my large freight charge here, cannot be authorized through my automatic process because I told it to not do that if it exceeded 20%. It also put a process hold here, reminding me that I was over the tolerance. So at this point, you would just need to do an additional sale to capture the balance of this and just use the sale capture to do so. If for some reason it was also unavailable from the customer's funds, you could select a new card from this list or a new card on the fly to process the balance of the $14.26. Once the balance of the amount has been authorized by the credit card, then you can transfer this into your invoice processing batch, remove the hold, and post the invoice. Let's process one more transaction, and we're going to enter in an order for Aaron Fitz, and we're going to add a credit card right on the fly. Now the wallet can be a very helpful part of your system, but it does often happen that the credit card needs to be added on the fly. Maybe the customer has never had a credit card with you before. And I'm going to choose the pre-auth to pre-authorize the order. And this time what I'm going to do is say new card. This will open the credit card entry window where I can put in the details of the credit card that the customer will be using for this transaction. I'll put in the expiration date and the code and the zip code. And then when I process, it will come back and give me the authorization, and it will also allow me to complete my setup here for this particular card for this customer. So if I want to assign this to a particular address, I can do so, and I could also mark this as the default card for this address if I need to. And then I can close the window. Now this transaction is now authorized with that credit card and can be saved and processed along with the other credit cards. Now back in customer maintenance, just to show you that customer information that we just added for that credit card is now stored in an additional window of credit card maintenance We can also see any cards that have been used for this particular customer. And I can also maintain this information here. This is also where I can assign the default, either at the address level or at the customer default card level. And also, if I had gotten a decline message that this particular card was expired, I could come in here and get a new card token, which would then update the information with all of the credit card, expiration date, etc. on it, because none of that information is stored here. Now, at the end of the day, you can review all of your credit card transactions by the different types, and you can also settle here, or if you have a time-initiated settlement, that will happen automatically at the specified time. If you need to look back on any of your transactions here, you can choose the drill down, which will bring you to our credit card transaction entry detail. This will allow you to look at either all of your unsettled transactions, look at just simply all of your Visa transactions if you need to, as well as looking at date ranges, and then anything that you would like to drill down on, anything that's not captured, any expired credit cards or authorizations. You could also go in and look at just certain types of sales as well. From here, you can also drill down to the originating transaction. This one happened to be in cash receipts, or if it was an invoice, you would be able to drill right back down to the invoice. Before we close the demo, let's talk a little bit more about Mercury. Mercury is an award-winning payment processor. They provide a secure, reliable system. They've got a system that is all-in-one, meaning there's no third-party gateway processors. You are going directly with the payment processor. Their level of security is in compliance with Level 2, PCI compliance, and also PA DSS certified. And that means that you can be assured that all of your transactions will be processed properly and securely. By using the tokenization, they are giving you the ability to not have any credit card data stored on your system, yet it gives you a secure way of managing all of your credit cards in a highly secure environment. They provide free 24/7 US-based processing support. They are there for you throughout the implementation. Their rates are highly competitive, and they also have processes in place to prevent power outages and interruption in services, so that you once again have top-notch service at your fingertips. If you'd like more information or have some additional questions, please feel free to contact us at channelmanagement@bluemoonISV.com or at 401-276-9000, option 2. And thank you for viewing this demo.